on you with their friends, girl, you got it.
Hey y'all, so today I have this pink bow look that was inspired by a PR package I received. Let's get into it. My first step is always going to be brows most of the time. I went ahead and took my duo glue and ran through her eyebrows, and then I smoothed it down with a spoolie and I patted them so that way they were flat on her face. Today to fill in her eyebrows, I used a NYX brow pen. This is in the shade Espresso, and I just took this brow pen and I slowly do strokes on the bottom of her brow and then the top of her brow, and then I filled it in. This is the same thing I do with a pencil, except with this pen you get a little bit more control when it comes to doing hair strokes. It's very good to do for the front of the brows. If you still love a brow pencil, you can do the brow pencil on the tail and then fill in the front with the brow pen, and it looks so natural. Now I'm going to start carving out her brows. I'm going to take this brush I got from Shein. Y'all know I love me some Shein brushes. And I'm going to take my concealer in Warm Beige from Too Faced, and I'm just going to slowly go underneath her brow. I really got a good shape on her brows today, so it was very easy to do her brows. And then I'm going to take that concealer and just go down a little bit and start to apply my base for her eyeshadow. Of course, everything I do on one side of the face, I'm going to do on the other side. So I just repeated the same thing I did on this side, on the other side of her face. Sometimes I'm going to show me doing that side and sometimes I'm not. But of course, I'm doing the same thing on the other side. Now to conceal the front part of her eyebrows, I took another Too Faced concealer. This one is in the shade Butterscotch, and these are the same concealers I use on her pretty much every time. She did get a little bit darker, but I still used her foundations and the same concealers that I use in every video. After you get a really good shape on your eyebrows, you can go ahead and take that concealer and you can put it on the lid, and then you're going to buff it out with a Real Technique dew brush. But you can use any like fluffy dense brush you use for blending. Just make sure you tap instead of swiping, because you could put streaks in your eyeshadow base and you do not want to do that. When it comes to blending out my eyeshadow base, I try to make sure I blend out the front of the base before I blend out the outside, because the front usually has the darker color, and I just like to do the darker color first because I don't want it to be too bright. And I just make sure I blend in the front of the eyebrows and I blend down the nose. And sometimes I have to blend like around the front part of the eyes, but I applied the perfect amount of concealer today, so I didn't have to do that. And then I go through and blend out the edge, and so it's easier to blend out the edge because it has a little bit of the darker color on it instead of the lighter color. Y'all get it. Now I'm going to take a taper brush and I'm just going to set this with some translucent powder. I always like to set my bases before I go in with eyeshadow, so it's easier to blend out my eyeshadow. This brush I know I got from Sonia Kashik. I've had this brush forever and I absolutely love it. It's super dense and it's easy to blend anything out. And of course, the first step of eyeshadow, for me at least, is to put the contour shade right at the front of her eyebrow, down the bridge of her nose, kind of like the side of the bridge of her nose. This is just gonna help the eyeshadow blend into her contour later on and not have like a super white line between the nose contour and the eyeshadow. I know this look was really dramatic because of the bows, but the eyeshadow is actually very simple. So the crease is only 2 eyeshadows. The light pink comes from the Sweet palette by Juvia's Place. You know, the pink palettes that come like the 3-pot. It is the lightest palette they have, and then it's the lightest color in the palette. So I'm going to tap this color on in the shape. I'm going to do her cut crease later on. I make sure I stay in the same shape. This makes it easier for me to do her cut crease later on, and I don't have to worry about too much blending. For this second pink, I used my Sweet Oasis palette from Morphe. I'm going to be bouncing back between these 2 palettes for the entire look because the one with Morphe also has a white in it, and that's the white I'm going to use later on. So I just used these 2 palettes to do this entire look. So I took that dark pink on another Real Technique do brush and I just tapped the color on in the shape I'm going to keep the cut crease in, and then I'm going to keep tapping to blend it out. I'm going to go back and forth between that light pink and that dark pink just so I can get the perfect pink ombre that I want. But this is what I'm going to do to intensify the darkness of it, and then I'm going to blend it out with that light pink again. As you can see, I'm not even taking that dark pink all the way across her crease. This is sort of like a half crease blend, and then I'm going to use that light pink to blend it out some more. So it's going to spread out just a little bit, but I made sure that I didn't take this color all the way to the end of her crease. When you get the perfect light pink color that you want, you're just going to take a white eyeshadow base, and I took another concealer from Too Faced. This is in the shade Cloud. It is almost their lightest color that they have, but I also use the P. Louise base sometimes. But I just really like this because it keeps the same consistency, and it's also very pigmented and smooth. When I cut the crease, I try to not take it past the eyeshadow. I didn't really worry about putting eyeshadow or anything over there underneath her arch of her brow because that's where I'm going to put the bows later on. So I'm really going to have something to cover it up. And initially, I was supposed to have small bows and put them on her eyebrows, and I was still going to leave the end open like this, but I actually couldn't find small pink bows, so I just took them off of my lash box. I'm going to take that same flat brush, but a different flat brush. This is a clean one, and I'm just going to take that shade in Cloud, and I'm going to lay this down on her lid, and I'm going to blend it out. I try not to put so much on the edge because I don't want it to blend out too far. Now I'm going to take a small blending brush. This is actually an eyeshadow brush, but I like to use this to blend out concealer when I want to be precise and I don't want to go over a cut crease. I'm just going to tap the edge first, of course, so you know it doesn't blend out too far, and then I'm going to tap the inside of her eye. I'm going to apply just a little bit more concealer just because I'm going to use a white eyeshadow and I wanted it to be a little bit more pigmented so that way my white wouldn't be pink. I always tell people that makeup is supposed to be fun and you can always turn a mistake back around. So I messed up when I was blending out her cut crease and I just went a little too far up over the pink eyeshadow with the concealer. So I took a flat brush that had a little bit of that dark pink eyeshadow on it and I just went and sharpened up that line again. Now I'm going to take some white eyeshadow on this really small eyeshadow brush and I'm just going to pack that white in, and then I'm going to ombre a pink into it, and then I'm going to take that same dark pink and I'm going to ombre that at the end. Now it's time to add our pinks, and I'm going to use the same light pink I used in her crease. I'm just going to take a flat fluffy eyeshadow brush and I'm going to pack these pinks on by tapping them. I like to start close to the lash line and then tap up close to the crease and then blend it into the white. I'm also going to tap it on the outside edge of this pink because I'm going to take the darker pink and add that later on. To get those colors blended together, don't be afraid to go back into the white eyeshadow, or if you want to go into the brush without any eyeshadow on it, and just go back and forth between both of those brushes. Now it's time to add the darker pink, but this is not the same dark pink we used in the crease because that would actually be too dark. This pink is from the same Sweet Oasis palette, but it's not the same pink. And I'm just going to tap this on with the same brush but a clean one, and I'm just going to make sure I blend it out really well because I want those edges to be blown out. And don't be scared to get a little bit of those eyeshadows over the crease because you just learned a hack to clean that up with the flat brush. I'm going to take a Neutrogena wipe just to clean out all the fallout because I don't want this to affect any of the makeup I'm going to put on the face. Taking my Max Lux eyelash glue from Kate by Max on Instagram, I'm just going to line her cut crease, and this is where we're going to put our pearls. For my pearls, I used 3 different sizes. I used about 4 or 5 really small pearls in the front of her eye, and then I used 2 or 3 in the middle that were a step larger, and then I used 2 at the end that were my extra large size. I'm going to go through and do the same thing on the other eye. Go ahead and line it with my Max Lux eyelash glue, and then I'm going to apply the pearls. I got my pearls from Amazon, by the way. My Amazon card is linked in the description box. For skin prep, I'm going to start with my Amberlist moisturizer, and I'm just going to apply this to various areas of her face, and then I'm going to rub it in, making sure I get on the sides of her nose and underneath her eyes really well so it can prevent creasing. I like to use my hands so that way it can increase circulation in her face, but today I used a brush. I use a brush when I'm rushing, so that's what I decided to do today. For primer, we're using one of my faves, which is the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I'm just going to do the same thing I did with my moisturizer and apply it to various areas of her face, and then I'm going to blend it in. For her foundation, I'm going to use NARS foundation. I chose to use the Natural Radiant foundation and the Light Reflecting foundation. The Light Reflecting foundation is in the shade Macao, and the Natural Radiant foundation is in the shade Tahoe. Per usual, I like to do swatches of the foundation all over the face, and then I go through and blend it out in sections, allowing the foundation to dry a little bit on her skin and build a little bit more coverage. I went ahead and mixed her foundation with a little bit of butterscotch concealer that I used on her eyebrows to conceal the top of her eyebrows. I like to use a little bit of the foundation so that way the color blends together very well. I'm going to take my time to do both of the eyebrows, and as y'all know, I do the arch, and then you want to connect the arch to the tail of the eyebrow. You want to connect that top point to the corner. And this whole time doing the eyebrows, applying the foundation, and doing the top of the eyebrows, I'm actually using the same flat concealer brush. When I do my eyebrows, sometimes they start out kind of weird and then they end beautifully. I just like to step back and make sure I have a good shape of the eyebrows and then go through and make sure they match. In between steps of foundation and concealer, I'm just going to apply a little bit of my Prep and Prime from Morphe. This continuous setting spray is going to add a lot of moisture into the foundation and help really well with the blending. The foundation just comes out really good when you add a little extra moisture. Taking a dense foundation brush, this one I got from Shein, I'm just going to tap those lines of foundation into her skin. I like to do this as well so you can see where everything is blended out. You know everything is blended when those lines disappear. I'm going to take a smaller version of the foundation brush I just used, and I'm going to blend around her eyebrows. I'm just using a smaller brush so that way I don't go on the eyebrows with any concealer, because I usually have a tendency to do that. We're going to use the same two concealers I used to carve out her eyebrows. So I'm going to start with butterscotch, and I'm going to put this under her eyes, up her nose, on her forehead, and on her chin. And I'm also going to put it underneath her nose, like right on top of her lip. And as y'all can see, I am applying it with the same flat brush. I'm going to take this Real Technique Dew brush, and I'm just going to tap the edges of the concealer to blend them out a little bit. I'm just going to blend out the edges and letting the inside still stay there and not blend it out so it can build a little bit more coverage. And I'm going to blend it out when I put my next step for my concealer. When I was blending out the concealer on her chin, I realized the sides of her mouth were just a little bit dark compared to the rest of the face. So I went ahead and put some concealer there, and I'm going to blend that out with the rest of the concealer that's already there. I'm going to use a black opal stick in the shade Suede Mochas for her contouring today. And this is the same type of brush that I use to blend out the edges of her concealer, but it's a clean brush. This one I just like to use to contour her face. It's just really good for the cheekbones. I take the foundation stick and I rub my brush across it so that way I don't get too much of the contour shade. And then I go through and put it on her face. When you're blending out the contour, make sure you go towards the inside of the face so you can sort of merge the contour shade and that concealer together. Now it's time to snatch that nose, and we're going to start by blending out the concealer. This is the same brush I used to blend out the lid color. I'm just going to go up and down the concealer on the nose and the forehead so that way it can all blend together. To contour her nose, I'm going to use the same color I used for her cheeks, but I'm going to just do 2 lines on both sides of her nose. That way I know the size that I want her nose to be. I go ahead and apply my brightening concealer, which is Warm Beige from Too Faced, and then I'm going to let this sit while I blend out the nose contour so it can build some coverage. At this point, I need to be an ambassador for Shein brushes because this whole face I've done with Shein brushes. I'm going to take this flat brush and just go up and down the nose. I just make sure I have that line in the middle very small so I know what size the nose is going to be. After I blend out the line going down the nose, I go up until the eyebrows so I can make sure there's no line between the contour color, the eyebrows, and the eyeshadow that's already put on her eyes. Yes, her eyes did start watering just a little bit. Later on in the video, I don't think I showed it, but I just went over it with a little bit more white concealer, and then I packed that white color right back on top. This doesn't always work, but it just happens to be okay for this look. When the eyes water, it can literally take the eyeshadow right off the eyes. So make sure you look out for that with your clients and have them lean side to side so that way the tears fall in the outer corner of your eye instead of the inside corner. Don't forget to spray your face with continuous setting spray for moisture. I'm going to take my liquid blush from Rare Beauty and I'm just going to tap this on both of her cheeks. I'm actually going to put some on, blend it out, and apply some more because with this look being super pink, I want it to be overload of blush. So I'm going to apply more and more and more of this liquid blush. I'm going to take my triangle powder puff and I'm going to blend out the inside concealer. I'm going to blend this up her nose, and I'm also going to blend this going towards the outer part of her eye above her cheekbones, just making sure this concealer blends into the blush. I'm going to set her face with one of my favorite powders. This is the Huda powder in Banana Bread, and this is the same powder puff I use to blend out. The good thing about powder puff is it really doesn't pick up too much product, so you can use powders on top of liquids. We're going to use this powder to set everywhere. We put the concealer all over her face, so under her eyes, above her lip, on her chin. I'm also going to use this to bake her nose, and I'm going to use this to set her forehead as well. To set her face, I used the Anastasia powder, but I don't remember the shade. I'm so sorry. I don't remember the shade, but I know it was an Anastasia powder, and it was the one that is underneath Golden Peach. I'm going to take a fluffy brush just to set her entire face. This is going to be any place we did not put the concealer. And now it's time for the magic moment, baking. So, of course, I'm going to use my Dermablend powder because I love Dermablend. I'm going to use my Triangle Powder Puff, and I'm going to go along the nose just so I can reverse contour and make sure I get up to the line of her eyes. And I'm going to take this all the way to the corner. Now it's time to add some depth and some shadows back into her face. So we're going to start by contouring, and I'm going to use my KKA Beauty palette that I always use, and I'm going to contour her face. For bronzer, I'm going to use Pacific Sand from ColourPop, and I'm just going to apply this to her cheeks. And then after I do her cheeks, whatever is left on the brush, I sort of like dust over her forehead just so it can add a little bit more color. For blush, I used my Ariel K palette. Y'all know I love me some Ariel K blushes. And I'm just going to apply this. As y'all can see, I OD'd on the blush as y'all knew I was going to. The look just called for it. So I usually don't apply anywhere near this much blush. So I was kind of scared. So I just kept bagging up and coming forward and applying more. And was like, yeah, I'm just going to have to trust the process with this one. For her under eye, I used my Milk Pencil and her waterline, and I just went through with the same pink colors to blend that out. I was sent these beautiful lashes from Blue Rouge Cosmetics, and these are actually the inspos for the entire look today. So we're going to take our Max Lux eyelash glue, and we're going to apply it to the band and the eyelash line. Let it dry just a little bit, and then apply the lashes. You want to allow your lashes to get tacky. This really, really, really is key to keeping a lash on your eye all day using this type of glue. I did apply some mascara to her bottom and her top lashes off camera, so that way the lashes will blend into her false lashes. For lips, we're going to use Blue Rouge Cosmetics as well, and I'm going to use Chocolate Brown, I believe this is, to outline her lips, and then I'm going to blend it out with Caramel. An easy way to line lips is to have your clients press their lips together so you can see the line on the outside of their lips, and it's easier for you to line that way. Taking this lighter brown lip liner in Caramel, I'm just going to use this to fill in all the spaces I didn't fill in using that chocolate brown liner. This includes space on the bottom lip, the top lip, and in the corners. Now, I told y'all these was the inspo, right? I went ahead and took the bows right off the packaging and put them on her eyes using my Max Lux glue. The Max Lux glue can glue anything, I'm convinced, because these bows did not want to move. I placed them on each corner of her eye and just left them there, and they were perfect. And if y'all didn't know, I'd be real iffy about my looks till I see the end. When she did this, I was like, okay, this look is pretty cute, because I was pretty scared about putting these big bows on her eyes. But you know what? If y'all like it, I love it. For her lipstick, I'm using Juvia's Place Mademoiselle, and I just mixed it with a little bit of the white concealer I used on her eyes, and I put that in the middle of her lip, and I have her pat her lips together so that way the lipstick can transfer to the top lip. After it transfers, I usually go through with my disposable lip pencil, but I'm actually out right now, so I just use the regular lip brush, and I'm just blending out the edges and have her tap her lips together again. After the edges are blended, I just go over where the lip liner is with a clear lip gloss, and this is actually from Blue Rouge Cosmetics. Again, this is in the shade Glaze, and this is their clear lip gloss. I'm just going to go over the top and the bottom. I'm going to use the pink lip gloss in the shade Stardust to fill in the inside of her lips. And after I fill in this lip gloss, I'm going to have her just pat her lips together again, so that way the lip gloss can transfer to the top lip. Taking that same brush I used to do her eyelid, I'm gonna just tap that translucent powder off her face, tapping and dusting it off into her skin at the same time. I'm gonna have her look up so that way I can do under her eyes and her nose. I didn't contour her nose today. Well, I didn't powder contour her nose because I did reverse contouring, and you know what? I don't know which one looks better. Now I'm going to apply highlighter. I just put highlighter at the tip of her nose, the bridge of her nose, and also on her forehead. When I got done, we applied some blush to the nose, so that's why it looks a little different in the picture. To end this look off, I'm going to spray some continuous setting spray and just pat that setting spray into her skin with my triangle powder puff. I hope you guys really like